Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Zulfia. I'm organizing this series of cooking sessions to celebrate Asian American cultures here in North Carolina in the United States. And the idea is to promote the diversity culture and peace building and encourage our neighbors to get to know each other. So we are also inspiring conversations on traditional dishes and their rich legacies. We are also showcasing several participants from different parts of the world. And today, Aziza will take a lead and share traditional meal from Uzbekistan. And Uzbekistan is located in one of the former Soviet Union countries.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me this afternoon. I really appreciate that. Sorry about the issues with my camera. I wish I could turn it on, but for some reason I have some technical difficulties there. But I did prepare some slides to share with everyone about the traditional stew that we usually have in our country, Uzbekistan. So for today's session, this is the stew I was talking about. It's a little bit, so that's when it was cooked in the pot. It might not be easy to see, but basically Dimlama is usually a celebration of spring. The best way to celebrate it is usually with food, because springtime is when we start having fresh vegetables and fresh fruit after the winter months when barely anything grows. So dimlama is usually cooked in layers. We have usually our stir-fried onions and then some protein. Traditionally, Uzbek people favor lamb or veal. We can also cook it with beef. My grandma and I actually made it last weekend, and we used the chicken thighs and beef together just to try it out. The next layer is usually the potatoes, and then we have the layer of tomatoes to give it some juice. And in our variation, we added a zucchini, and some people just add the layer of bell peppers, and then it all is covered with cabbage leaves, and then you cook it slowly for a couple hours just to make sure that the whole dish is infused with its flavor. And of course, you add salt and pepper, cumin, and we also added the paprika, but you can also add maybe some red pepper or any other spices you like. Traditionally, Uzbek dishes use salt, pepper, and cumin in their cooking. And this is the cooked meal on our traditional plate. So this kind of plate is usually is called pahtagul, which means cotton flour. So Uzbekistan is the fourth largest exporter of the cotton in the world, and cotton plays a huge role in our traditions and our lives. So the traditional dishes usually are this dark blue, that royal blue with the pictures of cotton blooms. We also have in our dish the carrots. So there are different variations of this dish, and you can really cook it however you want, as long as you have the layers of the onions and then some sort of meat, and then you have layer of potatoes and carrots. At the end, you just cover it with the cabbage leaves. I was able to also find a different kind of recipe for this dish. I'm not sure if it is easy to see it or no, but I still wanted to share it with the participant in case if they wanted to try to cook it at home. To me, this dish is really important because it's one of the dishes that is really native to my culture, something that I enjoy, but it is also something that my husband enjoys, who is not Uzbek. He's American, and usually people from other cultures have different taste buds. So for me to be able to share this traditional meal with my family that is American is very important. And I'm really happy that they enjoy it just as much as I do. And hopefully when my sons are bigger, we will be able to cook it together and enjoy it together. I wanted to ask if anyone has any questions or if anyone wants me to toggle back to the pictures. But yeah, if anyone is ready to ask any questions, let me know. Or I can also touch a little bit on the dish that is very similar to Dimlama. It's called basturma. So the only difference between the two is that with the Dimlama, you roast the onions and the meat and potatoes in the beginning. With basturma, you slow cook the entire dish. Oh, I see that Charmian raised the hand. Give me just a second. Let me see if I can unmute you. Give me just a moment. Yes, Charmian, go ahead.
Yes, what a nice presentation. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to participate and watch this show. I have a question. Do you have any restaurants here in USA? I live in Washington, D.C. area, which serve Central Asian Uzbek cuisine.
I know for sure that there is a Uzbek restaurant in DC area. I think there are in fact two. As far as for our area, we don't have Uzbek restaurant in the city I live in, but we do have one in the vicinity. So Raleigh is about hour 15, hour 20 minutes from Greensboro, and there is a Uzbek restaurant in there. They just opened about 2 years ago, and as far as I remember, they do serve dimlama there, along with all other traditional Uzbek dishes.
Thank you very much. And it's a very healthy dish.
Thank you. And I feel like with dishes that incorporate things like beef and potatoes, it's really hard not to like it. It's something that can appeal to a lot of different taste buds. So my little helper here likes to help me to wash dishes. So he's in the water stage right now. Hopefully he will soon transition to a phase where he wants to help me cook. That would be fun.
And where did you learn to cook?
No, well, I wouldn't say I'm a good cook, but the few things I know how to cook, I learned them from my grandma. Back home, we lived really close to my grandparents, and I was fortunate and lucky to spend a lot of times with them growing up. And everything I know about cooking is from my grandma, which is actually on this phone call as well. So I'm really happy that she was able to teach me these things. There are still dishes that I don't know how to cook. I just really enjoy eating them. So I take advantage of, seeing my grandma and ask her to cook those meals for me when she's able to.
So Ranopa joined us and she's on this call. And Ranopa, если вы, Aziza, I would recommend you to introduce your grandma and also talk about.
Of course. So my grandma Rano, she's on this call right now. For some reason, the name on her camera says Tian Tran, but her name actually is Rano. She's my grandma. John, скажите всем hi. Помашите рукой, скажите hi.
Я уже махала.
Yeah.
Good morning, good morning.
Yeah. My grandma lives very close to me, thankfully. So she lives in the suburbs of Raleigh in Morrisville, Cary area. She is really our lifeline. She was always there helping my mom to raise me. She helped my aunt to raise my cousin, and she's still helping us and with her guidelines and her support, and just having her with us is really a big luck. My grandma always loved to cook, and she's trying to pass that knowledge to all of us. I'm hoping I can learn as much as I can in the next few years as I am raising the family of my own. Whenever I think about my childhood, the memories are about me spending time with my grandparents and them, sharing the stories about their youth and the traditions and customs of our family.
your grandma has really offered a gift of not only good cuisine, but a cultural heritage. And I think you're a lucky granddaughter and lucky grandma. So,
I am definitely a lucky granddaughter, and I feel like my kids are very lucky great grandchildren as well. And as far as for cuisine, I'm not an anthropologist, but I do think that because of our location, we've been very lucky to have this fusion of traditionally Asian dishes mixed with some traditional Middle Eastern dishes, and this whole mix of different cultures and tastes, I think, produced really unique and wonderful cuisine that can appeal to many taste buds because it incorporates not just one culture, but so many. In a way, I would think of it as kind of a melting pot, but again, not an anthropologist. I might be not correct in my assumptions, but that's just the way how it seems to me and the way how it feels to me.
Aziza, could you please share a little bit, maybe components of like food as medicine and like maybe some health aspects related to like traditional Dimlama and maybe some spices that I used?
Yeah. In our family, we usually just use salt, pepper, cumin, and paprika. And of course, sometimes we add some garlic to enhance the flavors, but also to provide some of the nutritional value and some other properties of garlic to the dish. Because it is believed that Dimlama is the one way of to celebrate the springtime because we have fresh vegetables and fresh ingredients. It is a good mix of the protein, which is lamb or beef, plus you have a good amount of carbohydrates from potatoes, and you have a big chunk of vegetables in the dish, and it's all simmered together. But because of that, it just provides so much nutritional value as far as for the dish. So you have a good amount of proteins and fats and carbohydrates. It's a really filling dish. And because of all the vitamins infused from the vegetables in it, it also is something good to have after the several months of winter when you don't have access to fresh vegetables or fruits. So in the recipe that I am sharing, which is not the recipe I usually use, but I have this book that talks about the Central Asian and Caucasus cuisine. So I see that in their recipe, they also add coriander and cayenne pepper, which I think cayenne pepper is something that a lot of people do use back home as well as coriander seeds. And this particular recipe also uses tomato paste. We usually just use fresh tomatoes because it provides the most juice and the and nutritional value as far as for vitamins from fresh vegetables. But either one I think is fine, and it's a really popular dish among many families just because of it's a meal that you can share with the whole family. You just put it all together on a huge dish like that. Like it was in my previous slide. I'm just not sure if I can go back to it. And everybody just gets however much they want from that shared dish, and they place it on their own plate.
I know that potatoes actually came from Russia. I think it was in 1940s, I believe. I read an academic article about potatoes and how potatoes came to Central Asia. And it was, so I know that instead of potatoes, people used root vegetable. And but when Russians brought potatoes, people started using potatoes more, and that's how potatoes became part of traditional cuisine.
I did not know that, but potatoes are great in the sense that they are filling. It's basically carbohydrates, so it's immediate energy for the body. It's really great ingredients for a lot of dishes, especially if you're talking about the after World War II era, when for a while the access to products was there. I mean, there was a scarcity as far as for direct access to products at some parts of former Soviet Union at least, and adding potatoes adds that access to immediate direct energy, just like the rice that we use in different dishes is the same. It's basically a carbohydrate. It's direct access to energy. So it is transferred to energy pretty much instantly, unlike fat that it takes time for fat to be turned into from potential energy to become a source of kinetic energy.
But when we went to Peru, we saw about 900 varieties of potatoes. We learned that potatoes first made its way to Europe through a German traveler who brought the first seed to Germany, and from there it spread to all over Europe. Peru boasts having 900 plus varieties of potatoes, like the most variety that grows in the world. They also have a seed bank for potatoes. So there are, I think, variation of stories, but for sure that for the colder climate, the potato is a cold climate crop. And as you mentioned, it has carbohydrates. Not only that, it has vitamin C and other nutrients which are beneficial. So I guess where Uzbekistan probably is more on the colder climate side, like you have more colder, like cooler climate.
It's not necessarily. So the winters usually are not, it also depends on the region, of course, but from the part of the country where I'm from, which is the northern part of the country, you do have winter months that can be cold, but it's not like we're talking Siberia. So yes, we do have, sometimes the temperature drops below 0 Celsius or below 32 Fahrenheit. And sometimes we do have snow occasionally, but it's not too cold. We still have the ability to be able to grow potatoes, but we also enjoy really hot summer days between May to almost end of September. I think our winter truly lasts between mid-December to maybe March 20th, or in like sometime between the end of March. But let me know, Zulfia, what you think about our climate. It's not subtropical like where we are in North Carolina. It's a little colder, but it's not the coldest part of the world, I'd say.
Yeah, I think you said it right. There are some parts up north. Aziza, if you can make me co-host, that would be nice. There are some parts up north that border with Kazakhstan, and that part is much cooler than other parts, but southern parts are hot, and the climate is sharply continental. So up here is Kazakhstan, here is Kyrgyzstan, here is Tajikistan, here is Afghanistan, here is Turkmenistan, and above Kazakhstan there is Russia. So the climate over here, like you see that red line, that's where the border is much colder. And the climate in Kazakhstan is cold. It gets close to Canadian climate, like it can get cold like minus 30 Celsius. But overall, it's similar to climate of North Carolina, but it's not that humid. And it gets extremely hot in the summer.
Thankfully, it's a dry heat, so it's easier to tolerate it, unlike when it's hot and humid.
Ранопа, вы хотите добавить что-нибудь?
О Dimlama.
Ну, я не знаю, что она рассказывала. Она больше рассказала, мне кажется, добавить нечего.
Ну, я просто рассказала, что Dimlama обычно хорошо как бы, ну, начинают люди готовить, когда начинается весна, потому что весной же у нас начинаются свежие овощи, свежая зелень появляется, и вот эти все ингредиенты как раз-таки идут в Dimlama. И, в принципе, можно по-разному готовить. Главное, чтобы было мясо, баранина или говядина, картошка, овощи, и потом сверху накрывается все капустой, как бы. И овощи у всех по-разному. Например, мы сами добавили кабачки, обычно кабачки в классическую Dimlama не добавляют. Кто-то добавляет болгарский перец.
Ну, мы добавили болгарский перец. Да, по-разному готовится. Ну, конечно, основной ингредиент – это мясо, лук. Делают даже так вот, мясо и с луком. Но это более такой, мужчины любят, чтобы больше мяса было. Мы стараемся добавлять овощи, да. А можно и вообще без мяса делать, вот только овощи. Это, знаете, это на ваш вкус. Если вы не едите мясо, можно без мяса. Мы вот тот раз сделали, значит, мясо и курицу добавили.
Да, вот мне было интересно попробовать, как будет с курицей.
Да.
Мне кажется, очень хорошо получилось.
Да, можно. Ну, мы вот тоже часто курицу используем, потому что мясо здесь не очень любят, вернее, любят, но нежелательно. Поэтому по-разному, конечно, по-разному. Да. Основной, да, мясо.
Сейчас, подождите, let me mute myself.
Здесь главное еще специи нужно. Да? Мы добавили много специй. Ты рассказывала, да, про специи?
Вот расскажите про специи, может быть, и мы
Да, вот
перейдем.
в специях блюд в основном, значит, добавляется соль, черный перец и зира, кумин. Мы еще что-то добавили, Ази, там из наших здесь местных.
Мы добавили сладкий красный перец, паприку мы добавили.
Паприку, да, добавили.
Воу! Сейчас, подождите.
Да, ну вот это основные ингредиенты, да.
So, Ranopa said that they added salt, black pepper, cumin, and paprika.
Да. Yes.